Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for another one of our Meet the Specialist series. You may have seen his seminar last week on public liability and those types of matters. It was excellent, very well received. But we've got him here for this short snapshot, Meet the Specialist, so you can just get a quick overview of what he offers, what he's like. We have worked with Dr. Thomson for many years. He's a lovely fellow. This gentleman, he knows the inside and outside of the public liability, occupiers liability, total and permanent disability legislation and assessments for same. And he is an amazing general physician working now exclusively in medico-legals. So Dr. Thomson, tell us a little bit about the focus that you have and why you've chosen to focus on the types of assessments and work you do.
Good morning, everyone. This short talk is about my specialising in what's known as civil liability claims for some time now, and they comprise public liability, occupiers liability, and TPD superannuation claims. Over many decades, I've provided countless thousands of orthopaedic type medico-legal assessments across the whole range of workers' compensation, third party, and these public liability, occupiers liability, and TPD superannuation claims. And those last three are collectively known as civil liability claims. Eventually, I decided to diversify away from the SERA-related claims, which are the workers' compensation and motor accident, because of the increasingly heavy regulatory conduct of SERA. And since I've done this, it's become evident to me that there are a number of specific differences between these civil liability claims and the other types of claims, where in the non-SERA type claims, an important matter is the capacity to deal with disability rather than impairment. Where in the SERA-related claims, discussing disability is virtually prohibited. And when I started to look at these matters in the way I did, it became evident to me that there are these differences, which are not as well recognised or dealt with in orthopaedic type medico-legal practices dealing with workers' compensation or third party. And with those sorts of practices with multiple reports of that type, there's less attention given to these other differentiators than you're able to give if you're doing them exclusively and specialising on them. And the major difference is, of course, being able to discuss disability, and you're not bothered with impairment at all. Whereas, under SERA-related claims, the question of disability is virtually prohibited. And when one was examining this sort of thing, it became evident to me that you could concentrate on such matters as activities of daily living, domestic assistance, and in TPD superannuation claims, questions of their previous education, qualifications, work experience, etc. And if you're able to do this, then you can bring to the fore many of the aspects that are important in these civil liability claims that tend to get submerged or overlooked with practices doing a heavy throughput of SERA-related claims and just the occasional civil liability type claim. The other important difference is that when doing civil liability type claims, occasionally or periodically, one is asked to quantify them. Now, that enables one to use the long established table of names, which gives a percentage loss of efficient use of a part. You're not shackled to AMA4 or AMA5, where it's well known that too often the figure it produces doesn't actually really reflect the overall impact on the injured person.
Mm-hmm.
And so one is enabled to say that I assess permanent loss of efficient use of this part or that part or some other part at X%. And the percentages ranged from 15%, which is a basic threshold, all the way up to 100%. That's a great advantage to these sorts of claimants.
Yeah, absolutely, especially in the superannuation claims.
Yes, yes. And in fact, it was the table of names that provoked the government into throwing it all out and bringing in the whole question of impairment. But the capacity to still use that under these civil liability claims, I think, is a great advantage to these sorts of people.
Absolutely.
And specialising in them enables one to draw attention to all these various negative problems that they have, which tend to get overlooked in busy practices, with just lots of SERA-related claims and only occasional civil liability claims.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what I have to say.
Sorry, I was going to ask you then, Doctor. So when you get one of these claims put through to you, what is the information that you ideally want from the lawyer or case manager in the matter to help you do the best report that you can do?
Well, the most important documents are all specialist letters, all available imaging reports, all operation reports if they've been performed, and likewise hospital discharge summaries. Any other reports that are too frequently provided, of course, and we know all about these 500-page files. But any reports other than those that I've specified are really only optional. Therefore, if people are referring these civil liability claims, then they don't have to give me massive files at all. And that would be easier for the referring solicitor than this whole idea of, particularly with SERA-related claims where they've got to provide absolutely everything. And so these massive files come along. Well, it must take these solicitors ages to get them together. But if they send them to me for these non-SERA reports, then the stuff that I've stipulated is all that I need. So it would save them an awful lot of time as well, I would have thought.
And when you're doing these assessments, what do you find is roughly the amount of time that you need to devote to them in terms of?
Minimum of an hour.
Yep, minimum of an hour. And then
often it's more.
So that's reading the material and then also analysing.
No, that's face-to-face with the patient.
Face-to-face with the patient. And then you've got your time where you read it. Are you one of the specialists who prefers to read before you see the person or after?
Yeah, I thoroughly read the whole file. You know, I know an awful lot about them before they even walk through the door.
Great. Okay. That's really interesting. Now, in terms of just one more thing I wanted to ask you, what would you say are the ones that you most commonly get to do? Would it be occupier's liability?
Public, in order, public liability, occupier's liability, and TPD superannuation.
Right. Okay, then.
Public liability is, where they fall over in footpaths and things like that. Occupier's liability is where they fall downstairs in a block of units or whatever. Somewhere
that's got a body corporate or a or the owner of the property has public liability insurance.
They're non-public.
Right.
And TPD superannuation speaks for itself.
Yes. Yeah. And do you find that those are increasing or that they have remained a low low request?
Well, there are not nearly as many of those civil liability claims, of course, compared to CIRA-related claims. But as I said, after a long time of struggling with CIRA, I decided I prefer to diversify away from them. And I might add, I'm not the only doctor doing that.
I hear you there. Well, look, Dr. Thomson, it's been really interesting to hear from you today again, and hot on the heels of your seminar last week, which was very well received. I thank you so much for your time and look forward to continue working with you.
Yeah.
Go forth and have a great rest of the day.
Thank you, and goodbye to you and anyone else looking.
And thank you to those who joined us today. See you later.
Thank you. Bye now.
Bye.
Bye.